going on, everybody? Thank you so much for coming back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Curse of Chucky. So Curse of Chucky is the 6th film in the Chucky franchise, the first film in that franchise to go back to its horror roots and be more of a horror thriller film than any of the films that had come before it. One of the better Chucky films as far as looking at it from an objective standpoint, as far as the writing goes, the performances, the overall look, feel, and tone. They definitely took Chucky back to that horror vibe that he had in the first 2 films, maybe even the 3rd film, but more in line with what the feeling and tone was in the first 2 films. And yeah, you could tell that they made it an objective point to kind of just remove some of that over-the-top humor and just silliness that was in Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky. And what I really enjoy about this film is, again, Brad Dourif does an amazing job as Chucky. He does have his, his quirks, his little lines of dialogue, his one-liners. There is still that element of humor in there, and there still is that goofy B-horror feel to this film. For the most part, the cinematography in this film is probably one of the best in the franchise. The animatronic work is really good, though Chucky has a weird face and a weird look in this film for a lot of the movie. He definitely looks a little different compared to the previous films. I don't know, there's just something about the way that they designed him in this film. They kind of gave him a different look. He's still Chucky, he's still recognizable as Chucky 100%, but when you watch this movie, there is something about his face that is slightly different than the previous films. This is more of just a horror-based, creepy Chucky film. It's not necessarily terrifying or scary, but there's definitely some good jump scares here and there, and I just enjoy the tension that this film builds up compared to the last ones where Chucky was always just walking around, talking, making jokes, just being over the top. Whereas in this one, he spends a lot of time just kind of lying there. You know Chucky, if you've seen the other films, you know he's alive, you know he's aware, you know he's awake, but he is playing with the people in this house in this film for the first time in many movies, where he's actually staying, stagnant, not moving, allowing them to pick him up and move him places, moving himself, and kind of making a lot of the creepy factor around Chucky go back to that original thing where it's like, oh, the doll moved. He doesn't spend a lot of time walking and talking in this film, though he does have really great moments in this film. One of my favorite things about this film is the latter half of this film and just some of the revelations and tie-ins they tried to add to the rest of the franchise. If you've seen my reviews for this franchise before, the continuity in these films is a hot mess. It's all over the place. There really isn't too much to it that really connects it outside of a few things. You should watch them in order because there is continuity and characters that appear throughout the films, but you can tell that they kind of felt the right and the need a lot of times to just kind of not pay attention to certain things in continuity, not pay attention to certain characters, and kind of just work on each movie being its own thing. And if they felt the need to add some sort of element of returning characters or continuity connections, then they would, but they weren't really held down by that. And I think that messiness kind of is just part of what I love about the Chucky franchise specifically. There's something about it that just has this B-horror movie charm to it, and I think that this movie takes that same vibe, that B-movie horror vibe to it, and kind of just adds it into this very modernized, solid horror thriller film. Like I mentioned, there's still those B-horror moments. Definitely got really silly moments. It's definitely got really just over-the-top deaths and, characters that are just acting over the top. But for the most part, I found myself really enjoying the performances in this film. I enjoyed the characters a lot more. I was a lot more engaged. And as far as protagonist goes, the main protagonist in this film, Nika, who is a character that was born with paralysis. She cannot walk. She's in a wheelchair, and they do kind of unfold her past a little bit more as you get further in the film. I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, Nika is probably easily one of the best protagonists that this franchise has had. She's just a lot more interesting. The performances that she gives is way better than anything like an Andy Barclay or any of the previous other protagonists that the film franchise has had, and I really do enjoy her performance in this film. I enjoy that they brought her back for the final film in this franchise, Cult of Chucky, which I'm excited to talk about as well. A lot of times you watch these films and you think to yourself, why wouldn't you just kick the doll, or why wouldn't you just pick him up by the hair and yeet him? And of course, Chucky is this kind of creepy doll that has some sort of strength behind him and can charge at you with a knife, so it's not necessarily super easy, but I feel like they made it really interesting by eliminating that fact and making the main character somebody who's in a wheelchair the entire time and can't walk, because it makes those moments between her and Chucky a lot more tense. One thing I don't like about this movie, and it's the first time that they ever did it in the franchise, they've always really used really cool ways of bringing Chucky to life, whether it's a little person in a suit and the camera angles that they would use, or really, really great animatronics. And in this film, they decided in a couple moments when he's coming downstairs or when it's really dark to do like a CG Chucky, and I just didn't really like that. I just feel like it just took away from that overall consistent look that these films have had with Chucky. They don't do it very much, but the couple scenes that they did it was very noticeable to me, and it really just stands out, and it's just something that for me I wasn't really a huge fan of. And one last little fun fact that I really enjoy about this film is that the actress who plays Nika, Fiona Dourif, is actually the daughter of Brad Dourif, who plays Chucky. So I love the fact that she came in to be a part of this franchise that her dad's been a part of, and I really enjoy her performance. performance. You know, you could tell that she definitely learned a lot from her dad as far as giving like a really just believable performance, and that's something I really enjoy about this film, is between Brad Dourif and his daughter Fiona, father and daughter really brought this interesting, you know, element, and it kind of, I really enjoy seeing those characters on screen together. So yeah, I really enjoyed this film, guys. I think it's a solid Chucky film. You know, it's not incredible, it's not out of this world. You know, you gotta expect that there's still that B horror element to it. I think that's something that you can't really remove from this Chucky franchise, this original one specifically, because it's such a silly and ridiculous concept, and some of the films have really amplified that ridiculousness and that silliness, and some of them have been a little bit more tame, like this one, where it's more of a horror thriller and not really much of a comedy at all. So I really enjoy that they went back to their roots with this one. There's something about it that definitely stands out, and I really enjoyed the technical aspects outside of that CG Chucky that one time. But yeah, guys, that's gonna be my review. Thank you guys so much for watching. I definitely appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you want to see more of these videos, and let me know down below, do you like Curse of Chucky? What is your favorite film in the franchise? All of those questions that I typically ask, guys, leave your comments down below, and I will see all of you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!